Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, let's see some examples where we study endgame strategy, especially pawn structures. So when it comes down to pawn structures, we always want to ruin the opponent's pawn structure or maybe fix our pawn structure. In this example, anytime you see split pawns, you're gonna have an opportunity to exploit this weakness, right? And this one is easier because we already have the bishop. You might think about, okay, they also have a split pawns here. I mean, they can just play, they can play g3, and here the problem is they play c3. They're disrupting this long diagonal, right? So I showed this to one of my students. He was thinking, oh, okay, so I have to activate my bishops, right? Yeah, that is part of this problem. Let me click here. But that is not the... Okay, he was thinking bishop e7. Yeah, but what is the threat? What is the threat here? It's not a bad move. It doesn't ruin the position. I think also nice tries will be something like f6. Yeah, it's challenging this pawn. I don't particularly love it because they take, and now you open up the long diagonal for this bishop. And other try will be f5. Again, it's not a losing move. It's okay. Now, what is the best move in this position? You want to ruin this pawn structure? So in this one, you can play c5. The best move is to take, and now you take back. They're playing A and C versus A and B. This is going to become clearer as we see more examples. But yeah, it's going to be much easier to play A and B versus A and C. They have to do something about this pawn, so they're going to have to push it, and the game goes on. But okay, always look for ways to ruin this pawn structure for white. The second example I have for you is, it is white to play. And how do you ruin the pawn structure for black? My first instinct, the first second I saw this one is, oh, it's clear, knight e4, right? I'm attacking the bishop, and once I take, then I ruin the pawn structure. But this doesn't work because they have this move. They have this retreated move, and I just look like a loser. Okay, there is a better move, which is more forcing, more obvious. Knight d5. So forking the two pieces, king goes to b7. Now you take the bishop. Okay, and now how do you continue this game? Rook d1. Rook d1, you just trade rooks. And now bishop in an open game versus a knight is completely winning. So they're gonna have to defend this pawn. You can bring the king in, and it's painful. It's just painful to play for black. Let's look at this pawn formation. In this case, we have 4 versus 3, so we have a slight disadvantage on this side of the board. However, this one we have G, F, and H versus H and F. This pawn looks like it's hanging. What if we just try to defend it? Well, here it doesn't work, they just take the pawn. Then here, okay, sorry. This loses the advantage. It's not losing completely, but here my rook is in a really awkward place. You don't want to put it. I mean, I'm holding onto everything. There is something just much better. Something even better, not the best move, is to go rook h5. So you're going for activity here. If they take the pawn, now you can take here. They take, you take. But this example is about fixing our pawn structure. So here you can just simply play g5. Yeah, g5, they cannot play in passant. You take the rook. So now the rook is now without activity. They will have to retreat. And what you want to do now is stop the pawns on this side of the board. So, okay, you play bishop a4, and they cannot push this pawn, right? So, and it's a slight advantage. It's not losing, but at least you should hold the draw on this one. All right, in this one, we have a very clear, obvious move. Just taking this bishop, right? It is white to move. Why don't we just take this bishop? That should be fine, but we have something stronger. So probably you have already seen it, which also ruins the pawn structure, which is taking this knight. We take the knight with tempo. We ruin the pawn structure. Now they have double pawns. Which piece do you take with? The knight or the queen? Let me know in the comments. The computer doesn't even know. It keeps thinking, it keeps calculating, and it just doesn't know which is the best move. I would prefer maybe taking with the queen. The knight remains a bit more flexible, but it's just a personal preference. This one is a nice, easy example on first how to ruin the pawn structure, but also how to win a pawn. I want you to calculate, okay, what will be the best move, the next move in the position, the continuation for black, and now why are we making this move, in which pawn we can win. So that is all about to happen, because we can play f5 bishop is trapped, so the only move in the position is to take, and we take back, and now this pawn is undefended. So it doesn't really matter what black does. They're gonna lose this pawn. So they're gonna have to lose this pawn, and yeah, it's a slight advantage for white. Okay, like all examples, let's take a moment to look at the pawn formation. We have some symmetry on this side of the board. We have 4 versus 4, so nothing to do there. Then we also have G and H versus H, and we also have double pawns. So if you look at the double pawns, the first thing you want to do is fix this pawn structure, the double pawns. This move is easier to see. E5, bishop retreats, and now you can take this knight. First you are doubling up the pawns, and second, you are playing against a bishop that doesn't have this diagonal available. So yeah, it's gonna be really sad to see. You can target the pawns. You can play h4 next, and it's completely winning for black, for white. Always confuse the colors. So if we were not studying pawn structures, I wouldn't have understood this concept in this position. My first instinct was to take this rook. They take, and it looks like you're attacking this pawn, but they can just play a fork. So that will be losing. Now, you don't wanna help the. Here we're helping the opponent, right? We're helping the opponent fix their pawn structure. They have double pawns here. Instead, what you want to do is play knight c3. Now they take, you take back, and we are playing these 3 pawns versus 2, and it's almost like just one is playing C and A versus A and B. A and B is always going to be stronger than A and C. So yeah, much better position for white. Okay, I want to throw a fun fact in the middle. I was like, who is this person? Bone structure, what? No, it's German. It's bone structure in German. I'm gonna play.
Bauernstruktur.
So there you go. That is the German of bone structure. Okay, let's get back to our example. This one is about fixing our problems, right? We have black has a threat. I can also flip the board, and I want you to identify what is the threat. Yeah, they're threatening to play h5, h4, sorry, h4, trapping the bishop. So let's go here. And curiously enough, that's clearly the best move in the position if it was black to play. Oh, it's actually black to play. But let's imagine this position. What will be the best move for white? It's also h4, right? It's also h4. So let's say they waste a move, and now you will play h4. So okay, I cannot ruin this example, but it's fine because that's the same concept. Let's break down the pawn structure in this position. We have 4 versus 4-ish because they have double pawns. I don't see anything immediate in this side, on this side of the board. Maybe they can push A, threatening to play b4, but it is too slow. We have something better on this side of the board, so it's not disappearing. Okay, now we can play h5. h5, bishop has only one, not one move, but this is the best move in the position. Maybe, yeah, they can go somewhere else. But here, what you want to do is ruin the pawn structure, right? So you just play h6. They take, now you take. With tempo, they have to move the rook, and it's easier. It's just easier to play for white. Now you have f and g versus h. They have double pawns, so yeah, it's just easier. So I'm gonna leave you an activity. I don't wanna say homework because everybody hates homework. But what would you play in this position for white? I'm not gonna give you the answer. It can be for a next video. I can make this a series, but then what would you play for white? What do you want? And what does black want? Ask yourself the question. Can you ruin the pawn structure? Can they ruin your pawn structure? And alright, I hope you liked this video. I will see you in the next one. Join the channel and take care.